Hello, my dear students. My name is Ina, and today I'm conducting the webinar about reporting verbs. The verbs that we can use instead of say and tell when we report somebody's phrase. The topic belongs to the reported speech topic, and except say and tell, there are lots of other verbs that can be used. We will discuss with you some constructions. The details about these constructions you can watch about in another webinar. It's called just reporting verbs, and this webinar is connected to the topic reporting verbs that can be used with different constructions, not only one or two, but even more. So I will write you here the topic reporting verbs. Reporting verbs. There are lots of verbs that can be used with different constructions. I wanted to show you a table. I have prepared it. I don't know whether you can see it well or not, but it seems to me that you can. You can see that we have here different structures that we can use, and here are the verbs that can be used with these structures. What kind of structures I will tell you now, and we will think about what kind of verbs can be used with them. So when we report somebody's phrase or somebody's sentence, we can use different patterns. The first one, this is when we take our reporting verb. After that, we use that. Actually, it is optional. You might not use it. And after that, we use a reported statement. In reported statement, you have to follow the rules of reported speech. So you have to make step back in changing the tense. You have to change the pronouns, the subject of the sentence, and other pronouns. You have to change also time phrases and maybe place phrases. Like tomorrow we will change into the following day, or yesterday the day before. Please remember about that when you want to use. But instead of verb, just say, or he said, or he told me, we can use other verbs. According to my table, which I have prepared, we have here such verbs as admit, deny, regret, agree, claim, promise, complain, insist, recommend, suggest, demand. Verbs after which we can use object. Object, that means somebody. And after that, again, we will use that, which is optional, and reported statement. Reported statement. I mean that, for example, we need to say he promised me that he would come on time, or he persuaded us that we should go to another place. So in this case, we say some object that's somebody. And another pattern from this group, we can use verb plus that and should. We have here such verbs as insist, advise, recommend, suggest, and demand. After them, very often we can use should. This is one group. Another group that we can use when we report somebody's verbs. This is when we use verb, and after that we use infinitive, positive or negative infinitive. Also possible to use verb, then object. This is somebody, I mean, and infinitive. The examples in this case, for example, he agreed to come, or he promised us to come, like that. Another, and the last pattern that we can use with reporting verbs, this is when we use verb And after that, we use gerund. Again, it can be positive or negative, or we use verb plus preposition. And as you know, after prepositions, we use gerund. Plus gerund. So, what are mixed reporting verbs? We look at all these patterns. And some mixed reporting verbs can be used with more than one. If you look at my table, I will show it later on in PowerPoint presentation. For example, we have admit, deny, and regret. They can be used with the first pattern, just reported statement, and also they can be used with gerund. Such verbs as agree, claim, and promise can be used again with the first one, just this verb and then reported statement, or we use infinitive after them. Persuade, remind, tell, and warn, we use after them object, whom, or we use verb with object and then infinitive. We have complain and insist. Complain we use in the first part with insist, or after complain we use preposition about, and after insist we use preposition on, and after that we will need to use gerund. Advise has lots of different usage. We can use after advise us, and then reported statement, advise that we should, advise somebody and then infinitive, or advise and gerund. Can you imagine that? After recommend, the same. We can say recommend that, recommend that we should, recommend and then object plus infinitive, or recommend and then gerund. We have also suggest, which we use with the first pattern. Also suggest that we should, and suggest with gerund. And the last one I would like to pay attention to, this is the verb demand. After demand, we can use reported statement. Also, we can use should, and we can use just infinitive. Now, I will show you PowerPoint presentation with all these rules again, focusing on every word and what kind of patterns we can use after them. These are not all reporting verbs. Of course not. I have chosen only 16, the most common ones. Others you can find, analyze, and decide whether you want to use them or not. Also, as I mentioned before, you can watch our webinar about reporting verbs and find out more about the list of them. So let's look at the PowerPoint presentation, and I will show you some rules. Again, the same that I told you, but focusing on every verb. And after that, of course, we will do some practice. See you in a second. All right. So we have here the presentation with the reporting verbs and their patterns. If you look at the first slide, you can see that there are a number of verbs which can be used in place of say and tell. I told you about that already. When we report somebody what the person said. Also, there are a number of verb patterns which these verbs are used with. So, as I said before, some verbs can be used not only with one pattern, but with more. And this is what I wrote. This is the table. Of course, it doesn't look very nice, but I just want you to pay attention that there are so many verbs that can be used with different phrases, not only the one. I think winner here is advise and recommend. Now let's look at every pattern. The first one, we have a group of 3 verbs, admit, deny, and regret, after which we can use reported statement or gerund. Let's look at the examples. She admitted that she had made a mistake, or she admitted making a mistake. I'm sorry, both the sentences are fine to use. You can even use here perfect gerund. Sorry, she admitted having made a mistake, or just simple gerund. Again, let's look at the next one. Neil denies that he broke the window, but I'm sure he did. Neil denies breaking the window. And the last one about regret. I have always regretted that I didn't study harder at school. I have always regretted not having studied harder at school. I used here perfect gerund, just, I don't know, it sounded better for me. The next, we have two verbs, agree and claim, after which we can use reported statement or just infinitive. For example, they agreed that they would not tell anyone about what had happened, or they agreed not to tell anyone about what had happened. Sounds perfect. The company claims that it's not responsible for the pollution in the river. The company claims not to be responsible for the pollution in the river. Both variants are fine. This is what I want you to pay attention to, that don't worry if you use only one option, just use the correct one, that's it. And use the suitable verb, but it doesn't matter what you choose. The next verb, we have promise. It can be used with just reported statement, or we will have to use after it whom we said that, or just infinitive. With object as well. Sorry, this is probably my mistake. Yes, it must be with object. So promise that you won't tell him, promise me that you won't tell him, and promise me not to tell him. The next we have a big group, persuade, remind, warn, and tell. After these verbs, we can say, we can use object and then reported statement, or object and infinitive, such as, I persuaded him that I was innocent. I persuaded him to be innocent. Please remind me that I need to post this letter. Please remind me to post this letter. I told her that she had to go home. I told her to go home. My sister warned me that I shouldn't trust him. My sister warned me not to trust him. The next verbs. This is the verb complain. After complain, we can use reported statement or preposition about plus gerund. He complained that his boss was useless and he had too much work. He complained about having too much work. Insist. After insist, we can use reported statement, or we can use should, or we can use preposition on and gerund. They insisted that all swear words would be deleted from the article. Sorry, I lost would. They insisted that all swear words should be deleted from the article, or they insisted on deleting all swear words from the article. Sounds fine too. Advice. After advice, we can use so many different forms. We can say object plus reported statement, should. We can use object and infinitive. Without object, we can use gerund. So I think I would advise him that he leaves the company. I think I advise him that he should leave the company. I think I advise him to leave the company. And I think I'd advise him leaving the company. Both are up, not both, four of them, sorry, not two. Four of them are absolutely fine. It's up to you what you want to choose. They have a slightly different meanings, but they are so light, so tiny that you don't need to focus on that. Just use one of these constructions. The next verb, we have here the verb recommend. Also, after it, we can use four different forms. We can use reported statement. We can use should. We can use also object plus infinitive, or just gerund. So the doctor recommended I get more exercise. He recommended that I should get more exercise. He recommended me to get more exercises, or he recommended getting more exercises. The next word is suggest. After suggest, we can use reported statement, should, or gerund. Liz suggested that I try the shop on Mill Road. She suggested that I should try the shop, or she suggested trying the shop. And the last verb from my choice. Again, these are not all verbs, all mixed verbs, but I think 16 is enough, especially, well, keeping in mind that with them we can use different forms. So after demand, we can use reported statement, or we can use should. Also possible to use infinitive. She demands that he returns the books he borrowed from her, must be returns. She demands that he should return the books that he borrowed from her, or she reminded to return the books he borrowed from her. Now let's practice a little bit. I will give you here 3 sentences with which you need to create different constructions. Promise and advice have lots of promise 3 options, advice 4 options, and regret 2 options. I'll give you a minute to think, and after that we will check. I guess we will move on because I've got lots of such sentences and we need to do all of them. So, with promise, original sentence, I won't tell anybody. He promised that he would not tell anybody. He promised me that he would not tell anybody, or he promised not to tell anybody. I feel sorry that I didn't visit the National Gallery while in London. He regretted that he hadn't visited the National Gallery, or he regretted not visiting the National Gallery. Leave early. He advised me that I leave early. He advised that I should leave early. He advised me to leave early, or he advised leaving early. Sounds nice. The next one we got here again, promise and advice. I want you to remember them. And suggest. So, what we can use here? I'll stop smoking. So she promised that she would stop smoking. She promised that she promised me, sorry, that she would stop smoking, or she promised to stop smoking. Why don't I do the shopping? He suggested that he did the shopping. He suggested that he should do the shopping, and he suggested doing the shopping. You ought to tell the police. She advised me that I tell the police. She advised me that I should tell the police. She advised me to tell the police. She advised telling the police. The next one we have here, tell, agree, tell again, and suggest. Sometimes they will be repeated, then you will remember better. Let's check. Wait outside. I told her that she would wait outside, or I told her to wait outside. I think the second option sounds better in this case. Okay, let's go Dutch. Go Dutch, it means to pay for yourself when you go out with your friend, like to a restaurant. Everybody pays for himself. He agreed that we would go Dutch, or he agreed to go Dutch. Park round the corner. He told me that I should park round the corner, or he told me to park round the corner. Say you're ill. I suggested that he would say he was ill, or I suggested that he should say he was ill, or I suggested saying he was ill. The next one, we have here longer sentences and again some suggestion with the verbs. Insist, claim, deny, and warn. Again, as we don't have a lot of time and we have a lot of slides, I suggest moving on, or I suggest that we would move on. So what we have here, you must believe that I didn't know it was stolen. He insisted that he had not known it had been stolen, or he insisted on not knowing it was stolen. Sounds also very nice. I have never seen that man before. He claimed that he had never seen that man before, or he claimed not to have seen that man before. You can also say not to see. If you don't know about perfect gerund, that's all right. You can use just not to see. No, I didn't steal the money, he said. So he denied that he had stolen the money, or he denied having stolen the money. Again, I used here perfect gerund because it sounds very nice. But possible to use just gerund. He denied stealing the money. And the next one, don't drive too fast or you will get a ticket. She warned me that I should not go over the speed limit. Or she warned me not to go over the speed limit. Or nothing. Joking. All right, we have here some more words. Promise, demand, and remind. Please think what to use. Have you thought? Let's check. So, I will never do such a thing again. He promised that he would never do such a thing again. Or he promised us that he would never do such a thing again. Or he promised not to do such a thing again. Give me all your money now, he said. Quite dangerous. He demanded that I would give him my money, or he demanded that I should give him my money, or he demanded to give him my money. Remind. Remember to feed the cat before you leave. He reminded us to feed the cat before our leaving. Or he reminded us that we should feed the cat before we leave. Or nothing. Okay, one more slide. Please think what to use with suggest and admit. So what we have here, let's check. Let's go to the zoo, shall we? So he suggested that we would go to the zoo, or he suggested that we should go to the zoo, or he suggested going to the zoo. I was playing with my radio when I hit the car. So he admitted that he hadn't been looking at the road when the accident happened. Well, it sounds, of course, weird a bit, but I mean that we use these reporting verbs because we don't want to say exactly the same words, and this is a very vivid example for such rule. Or he admitted not looking at the road when the accident happened. Now, I suggest thinking what to use, what kind of verb can be used here, and what kind of options can be used with such sentences when we need to report them. So what we have here, why don't you go to the cinema, Lisa? I suggested that Lisa would go to the cinema. I suggested that Lisa should go to the cinema, or I suggested going to the cinema. He is working on a new drama now. The theater manager claimed that he was working on a new drama then, or the theater manager claimed to be working on a new drama then. Listen to me, the waiter is very dirty. He persuaded them that they should not go swimming. Oh, not water, sorry. Or he persuaded them not to go swimming. A few more slides. Think about the words that can be used. And let's check them. I wasn't given enough time to prepare, so he complained that he hadn't been given enough time to prepare, or he complained about not being given enough time to prepare. Let's go to an art gallery tomorrow. The exhibition is marvelous. My father recommended that we would go to the art gallery the next day, or my father recommended that we should go to the art gallery the next day, or my father recommended us to go to the art gallery the next day. All options are fine. I would choose maybe the last one, always should, but again, you just need to use only one. But remember about the options that you have. And as the last one we have after recommend, we can use gerund. So my father recommended going to the gallery the next day. The last slide with two more sentences. I must get his autograph today. Let's look at the answers. She insisted that she had to get his autograph that day, or she insisted on getting his autograph that day. And if I were you, I wouldn't let my child watch this film. My neighbor advised me I don't let my children watch that film, or my neighbor advised I should not let my children watch that film. My neighbor advised me not to let my children watch that film, or my neighbor advised not letting my children watch that film. That's it. Let's make the conclusion. I'm back. You can see me, I'm here. So there are different options with one verb that we can use. You don't need to remember all of them, but you have to remember some of them. As I told you before, I have chosen the most common ones. Also remember about reported speech rules, that we need to make step backs, to change tenses, to change times, to change pronouns, and so on. I hope the information was useful for you. It systemized the reporting verbs list a little bit better. And thank you for watching. See you.